I'm going to be honest. I have just built this entire free case study as a blatant bribe to try and get you on a call with us. And in saying that, the whole point of this is to make it as valuable as possible so that you watch until the end and you get so much source from this. You apply to your brand, you see the results, and you have no other option but to book in a call with us, because you're going to wonder what we'll do for paying clients. And trust me, we do a lot more than this. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've worked with over 150 brands over the last 8 years doing email marketing specifically. And I am so fucking confident that we are the best at what we do that I wanted to put it all on the table, where usually agencies and people will charge you a massive fee for the information I'm giving in this video. And it's so much so that you can literally send this video to your team, they can implement it and essentially grow everything for you. And the only reason I'm doing this, I'll be so honest, is to get the right people on a call, because we only take on 2 clients every single month. And those 2 clients, we want to be the best of the best who want to grow aggressively, because that's who we align with. So with that being said, I recommend you stay until the end, because it is going to be so valuable. You're going to wonder why I'm not paying for this. And that's the point. I want to bribe you to get on a call. So let me jump into it. All right, so like I said, this is the exact breakdown on how to scale your e-commerce brand from 100K or so to 500K and above per month. So again, this applies to brands that are stuck at 500K and need to get to 1 million, because I can guarantee you're going to get a ton of value from this. And so this is a blueprint for brands that already have email marketing. Like, you already have the foundation in place. You have ads running, you have email marketing in place. The only thing is you're just not seeing scale. And trust me, it doesn't rely on ads. And so by the end of this video, you will know exactly what's costing you $400,000 a month and the specific moves to recover it, the same playbook that we run for brands every single day. All right. So this is exactly who I am and why you should listen to me. So I have been doing this for the last 8 years. I've been deep in email and retention for e-commerce. So I understand ads. I understand the actual metrics. I'm not just a retention player, because what can often happen is people silo themselves into only understanding email. That's not the case. I know what roles are the right levers. I know what contributes to your revenue, and I know how much is important to a brand. And so with that being said, I've worked with over 150 brands in that time across so many different industries. It's actually disgusting. And in that time, I've generated at least $350 million in attributed email revenue across our portfolio. And that's being conservative, just because I don't want to blow up numbers. And so here are some emails that we have built, right? You probably recognize tons of these brands, and these are emails that I've done case studies on. These are emails that I personally filmed videos on, showing you how I redesign these and how our team does them. So we're super transparent about everything that we do. There's no secrets here. And so you can see exactly the emails we've built, the quality of the emails, because that does matter. And then if you are curious about case studies, I'm just going to let you watch them in your own time. I'm not going to throw them at your face. If you want, you can search Jade Emails on YouTube. I do tons and tons and tons and tons of content around email specifically, because I have a love for the game and I'm very transparent about backends. Actually look like. So many agencies will bloat about numbers, but then they don't talk about how much was actually attributed to ads, or how much was because of a sale period, because they ran it over Black Friday. I am showing you literally step by step what we did for the brands. I'm so transparent, as you can probably tell already, because I'm trying to get you on a call. So here's an example of my history as well. I built the best email agency in cannabis and then sold it to specialize on email marketing for multiple industries. Frankly, the reason I did that, and this is a question I get a lot, is because I wanted to become the best in the world. And you can't be the best in the world by being siloed within one industry. But in saying that, cannabis is the hardest email category in e-commerce, in my opinion, because you have restricted ad channels, deliverability nightmares, and also like regulation landmines left, right, and center. But we won the game. I sold the agency so that I could 100% focus on what I'm best at and focus on multiple industries. So if we made it work in cannabis, trust me, we know it works everywhere. And this is why I'm giving this away, right? Most brands at 100K don't need a new ad agency, because what you're probably looking at is, hey, I need to scale, but I'm stuck, and so I need to fire my ad agency, or they need to do more creatives, and all the pressure lands on them. To be honest, the pressure needs to land on your email agency or whoever's running emails, because they're responsible for the main 3 levers that generates most of your revenue. So they need a new way to think about email. And this is what you guys need. You just need a new way to think about email, and I promise you it's going to click straight away. So this video gives you the framework. If you decide you want help running it, you'll know where to find me. But if you don't, then you've got this video, share it with your team. They'll implement it. I promise you'll see results. And if you don't, probably didn't implement this. So here's what I'm going to cover in the next few minutes, right? And I'm not going to keep you for long. Number one, where you're at right now, because I think it's going to surprise you at how accurately I can nail where you're at. Second thing is the maths of 500K per month from email and above. Exactly what's leaking right now in most of the brands that I audit, and very likely yours as well. And trust me, you're going to nod a lot at the things I mentioned that. Then the 5 levers that we tune. This is the most important thing. This is going to be the most valuable step, so you can even skip ahead to that. Then the contrarian sales sequence, how the flow should actually be built, because again, so many brands get this wrong, and what to do next. So this is who this is actually for. This is a entirely specific video for if you're at this revenue range. And the reason why I keep saying that over and over again is because if you're doing underneath this revenue, this is not going to be valuable for you. Your focus is completely different. You should be focusing on acquisition. So your issue is that you don't have enough traffic and email won't save you at this point. But if you're doing at least 100K to 500K per month, you do have traffic. You have unlocked it. Email is your highest leverage channel. So you already have ads dialed in, kind of. You also already have strong traffic. You have pretty good referrals and organic traffic. And you already have an email platform in place. That's where you're at. And so this video is entirely for you guys to focus on the next levers. And then, of course, it's going to be very, very, very specific to 500K as well. There's going to be some gems here. But this is mostly just a case study for these brands. However, we mostly do work with a lot of 500K plus brands. I just wanted to provide a lot of value for that middle phase. So here's the thing. If you're doing under 100K, please click off. Email will not save you. I promise you, it is just that the fact that you don't have enough traffic, your problem is entirely different. Now that I'm speaking to the right people, this is where email becomes your highest leverage channel. And I don't mean your highest attributed channel, because it's a very different thing, but I mean your highest leverage channel where you can actually see the needle moving things. And so growth here doesn't come from more visitors. It comes from converting them into more buyers, more often, at higher AOV. And so the entirety of this video, you should walk away with the solution on how to increase AOV, which is a super important metric. Number 2, how to increase the frequency of purchase, which is the most important metric. There's no point in selling an item and then those customers that you've already paid for just never come back. Otherwise, you're basically playing a losing game with your ad team and you're putting the pressure on them. And then the third most important thing is a higher conversion on first-time purchases, which again, you blame your CRO team and your ad team for, but you should be looking at your email team as well. Email should gather and take accountability for most of the revenue pressure. So let me know if this sounds familiar. And I'm sure that you're probably going to nod a few times. So you currently have ads working, you have email running, but it's not actually unlocked. And what that means is you spend a meaningful chunk on paid acquisition, but you don't see that same month-over-month growth. And you also, what usually happens is your profitability starts to marginalize as you scale your spend. Generally, yes, your revenue is matching it, but your profitability isn't. And next you have, or you probably work with an ad agency, or at least have it in-house and dialed in. That's fair enough. Then you also do have email flows and campaigns going out, and you probably even have an email agency. But even though you have all of that, your revenue feels stuck. And I don't just mean your email revenue. I mean, you should stop looking at emails an isolated metric. It is not. So if your email were actually working, you wouldn't be at 100K per month. You would easily hit 500K per month. And by the way, when I say 100K, I mean anything below 500K. You should not be below 500K at all if you have all of this in place. And so if you do, and you're not at any of these, it means that you have a leaking bucket. So email is the easiest lever to pull for the biggest growth in the shortest time. This is not plug and play advice, by the way. You already have the foundation, so I'm literally going to tell you how to tune it in the right way. So here's the math, right? You should have your list size times by engaged percentage times by revenue per recipient times by frequency. And so when that calculates for a typical 100K brand, usually you have around 35,000 people on your list size. It can be a little bit lower and you have a higher AOV product. That's completely fine. And about 30% of them is engaged. So you get 30% open rates. You get a few of those people opening here and there. That ends up being your average revenue per recipient, and then you're sending about 8 to 10 times per month on average, right? And so your total email revenue is probably attributing about $30,000 because of that 30% attribution. But what we're actually fine-tuning towards is the brands that are sitting at maybe 50,000 or so, and or let's just say 35,000 and above, and we're getting 40% of that list engaged. The average pay per recipient is a little bit higher times. And that sounds crazy. It sounds like we're spamming people. I promise you we're not. When you watch further on in the video, you'll see why this is what you need to be sending per month. Trust me, output is king, but I'm going to explain why. And so before the fix, let me show you what's actually the issue, because I promise you the things that I'm going to point out right now is exactly what you have in place. And every single time I audit a brand, and trust me, I audit over 50 brands a week. Every single week, I audit about 50 different backends, sometimes engagements between 30, but you get the point, right? And so if you nod at any three of these problems, that is your 400K. That's how you're going to increase 400K in the shortest time frame. So the first thing that I see is the biggest one, and one I want to get out the way very quickly. Your post-purchase flow right now is probably a generic thank you and upsell. So this is what we see. Usually brands will do like a one kind of thank you email plus some kind of upsell within the email to every buyer, by the way, regardless of their product history or LTV. Huge mistake. Even worse is if you are a subscription brand and you have subscribers going into this flow. I cannot reiterate how dangerous that is. If you are a subscription brand, you are costing yourself so many canceled subscriptions. Go take a look at your backend. Filter by canceled subscriptions. I promise you this is the biggest contributor. And so this is why it's wrong. First-time buyers and repeat buyers need fundamentally different sequences. So they need very product-specific education, and refill timing needs to be optimal. So I will show you exactly how we build this out, by the way. Literally, you can pause the video, go build it out for your team, and you'll see the results immediately. So the cost of this is about $15,000 every single month, minimum. Then your cart offer competes with your welcome offer. This is something I see almost no one talk about in the online space when they talk about email. And agencies often build this out so incorrectly. What we see is, for example, you're giving about 20 or 15% in your welcome offer, but then your cart abandonment and your checkout abandonment is also maybe 15 or 20%, or maybe so badly built. I actually can't believe brands still do this. The reason for this is because you've already trained your subscribers that 15% is the floor. So your cart and your checkout need a completely different lever, and you need to pay attention to their pain points. If they didn't buy from the welcome flow, it's because they didn't trust you. And so you need to use a different offer that will get them over the line. What will make them trust you more? Is it a free shipping offer because their pain point was actually shipping, which is very common, by the way? Or is it that they want an additional product so it's a no-brainer for them? Or is it urgency? Or is it social proof? The discount is not the reason. And so this is costing you like 20 to 30% drop in cart recovery rates, and you don't even realize it. If you go take a look now at your flows and you see that you have a percentage off in your welcome and your cart and checkout, that's already a 20 to 30% drop in revenue. I would take a big look at that and at least do $1 off instead of a percentage off. Trust me, someone's not going to buy it just because they saw another percentage off that was not your welcome flow. And then when we take a look at leak number 3, subscribers and subscriptions are currently inflating your stats. This is something we see all the time. First of all, the attribution window in your backend is probably overinflated. But above and beyond that, a subscription brand, and if you're not a subscription brand, just skip ahead a little bit. If you're a subscription brand, your customers and existing subscribers are baked into email revenue. So your email agency or your internal team is probably taking attribution for things that you would have gotten anyway. What I mean by that is, imagine that you have about $40,000 in average recurring subscriptions, and then you get a report from your email team saying they'd got 140K that month. Sounds great, like it sounds phenomenal. But then you take a look at the real numbers, you realize you have to deduct 40,000 from that, and you are actually lower month-over-month growth from new revenue. And all they're doing is cannibalizing on subscribers. So someone subscribes in, let's just say, January. We're now in May. And it is attributing that revenue every single time their subscription renews because they're getting emails. And that's how Klaviyo works. And so you need to make sure you have very unbiased reporting like Triple Whale. So first of all, your subscribers would buy anyway. You reported email revenue, and it's basically just fiction until you exclude them. So you need to make sure that you're not doing this, especially if you're running tests, because now that those tests are skewed and you're getting completely wrong decisions from that. Then email leak number 4 is you're sending the same offer to engaged people, non-buyers, and repeat customers. That is so dangerous. I cannot explain how much is damaging your revenue. And the reason is because what we usually see is sales emails usually go to every single segment with the same discount. Generally, when we look at a backend, everyone is sending to an Engage 120 or Engage 180. That's generally it. There's very few times, or, they will commonly, and hopefully you are doing this, you already have some exclusions and some inclusions, but I promise you're doing it incorrectly. This is why it's wrong, right? 80% of revenue is from repeat buyers. Trust me, go look at the numbers, get someone really good with data and get them to look into this. They will buy without the discount, doesn't matter. So the lever here is that you want non-buyers, first-time purchases, and one-time purchases. You want to turn them into second-time purchases, and you want to also reactivate your lapsed customers. That's where the growth is. So you're basically discounting customers who would have paid full price anyway. And the reason we know this is because we did a test where we ran a discount sale and we tried to track exactly how many people that purchased actually used the discount. And we saw that 40% of the people that placed an order that day from the sale email did not use a code. So if you're doing a site-wide sale, which I never recommend, if you're doing a site-wide sale, basically 40% of the people that come to the website and purchase at least would have bought anyway. Why are you discounting your brand? It's teaching customers the completely wrong mentality and you're breaking your margins. Then leak number 5 is you're basically, again, your default is 120-day engaged. Do not do that. Like, you can't just be sending to engage customers. This is basically a deliverability segment, not a marketing segment. There is no lifestyle logic, there's no predictive value, and no personalization. You cannot be generic anymore. Then when we take a look at blanket discounts across every abandonment flow, like I said, every abandonment flow you're running is probably running the same percentage off. So you have cart 15, checkout 15, and browse 15 for those percentages off. Maybe you don't, maybe you've already nailed this, which is great, but it's very rare that I see that when I audit an account because each cohort is at a different intention level, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later when I show you exactly how we build out flows. And browsers need information. Cart abandonments need urgency, and checkout abandonments need a removed objection. Discount is basically like the lazy answer to all of this, but your agency is probably lazy. I hate to say it. And then worst case that I see, and this is the most common one that I see, unfortunately, is almost nothing is split tested. And I don't mean a subject line or a sending time. That is bullshit, fluffy numbers. That shit does not matter. What actually matters is that you're testing a few different things. So what we usually see in the backend when we take a look is you have one pop-up form, you have one offer, you have one subject line style, you have one sender name, and you obviously are only using like one main thing, basically. Like, I don't know, you're sending the same campaigns and they're all image-based. And why this is wrong is because at 100K, this is the exact revenue point where testing pays back the fastest. You finally have enough volume to learn and you're flying blind. And so I'm going to go over the tests that you should be running because it's a big deal. So for example, just on the examples I gave here, you should be split testing offers to different people. You should be split testing different offers in every different abandonment series. You should be split testing the pop-up form from a full page to a pop-up. And you should be split testing a mystery discount versus $20 off as the welcome versus 20% off as the welcome. This is what you should be testing, not testing the subject line today. And that's what most agencies do because it's fluff. It's like a great vanity metric, which is fine. But if you're focusing on revenue, don't even bother with those kind of people. What you want to be focused on is split testing the things that matter. Different sections in the email. So a bestseller section versus a category section. Split testing using a first name versus the team at, the team at, let's just say newbalance.com. So you want to test all these different things. Plain text versus image-based emails. That's what you should be testing. Then leak number 8 is your pop-up is a standard and there's no like logic behind it. There's no segmentation. So generally what we see is you're probably running a pop-up, which hopefully you should be. And usually at the case, you've got a pop-up, you've got enough submissions, maybe 6% to 7% submissions. Whereas you should be sitting at a minimum of 12 to 16% submissions. You don't have an exit intent, you don't have an embedded form correctly, and there's no segmentation by traffic or interest, actually. And why this is wrong is because returning customers and cold visitors see the same offer. So mobile and desktop are treated identically, but the first impression is basically just generic. And so this results in cost you basically a 30 to 50% lower opt-in rate from what's possible at your traffic level. So if any of those 3 that I called out was true, that is your 400K. Like, congratulations, you can exit out of this, you know what the issue is. But now I want to show you exactly how to fix this. This is the framework, right? We use 5 different levers and we tune these differently. So I'm going to show you exactly how to capture a list correctly, how to send campaigns correctly, how to run a sale correctly, because this is going to pretty much shock you, flows and segments, because all of this you're doing incorrectly at this point. And so let me talk about the form very simply and easily. You should have 3 minimum. One of them should be a pop-up, and this should be a full page with an offer. And this generally needs to test different creatives depending on where they're coming from or ads. But if we keep it super simple, you should have a pop-up that has a mystery discount and that takes in their interest, which I'll show you shortly. And then you should test the actual offer. Then you should have another form which exits intent, and this catches the bounces. So this is the second best offer, lower friction, and a different value proposition from the main pop-up. Then you should have your embedded. That is pretty self-explanatory. This is the example of the 2 top brands in the industry and what pop-ups they're running, and I want to talk about exactly why so you can implement it. If your pop-up does not look like this and it's not multi-step, you're already losing. Pause this video, go and implement it. Essentially, what they do really well is they have a offer, and so this one is just a clean, you want to show them this offer. This one is a mystery discount. Both of them perform incredibly well. Arguably, the mystery discount does best, and it doesn't devalue the brand. And so what happens is they, first of all, show you the offer. Number 2, they collect, and this is all within the first step. So in the first step, they show you the offer, number 1, and then number 2, they collect an interest. This is what separates the brands that are actually scaling versus the ones that don't. The reason for it is because now you understand your audience better, and you can start capturing them and sending them more personalized data. In a world where everything is AI created and AI slop, personalization goes a long way. And so what we're doing is we're collecting that information. Sign-up forms go skyrocketing to 17% as soon as you implement this. Reason being is because they don't feel like they're being sold to. It feels like they're earning their discounts, and there's some kind of exchange, like you're showing care for them. And so step number 1 should look exactly like this. So you should show the offer and ask for an interest. Then the next step should get their email, the next step should get their SMS, and the next step should be showing them the discount code on the exit page, the success page. The reason we want to do that is because only an average of around 40% of people open that first email on the welcome flow. You want to guarantee that 100% instead of 40% of them are actually getting the code so that you convert more people. Now, let's move on to campaigns. This is the mix, and this is going to surprise you because a lot of brands are going to immediately say you don't know what you're talking about because you're discounting your brand. We're not discounting brands. Let me explain. We do 25% educational. We do 25% newsletter/brand emails, so like plain text, founder voice emails, and then we do 50% promotional. Now, it might confuse you why we're prioritizing promotional if we're not discounting brands. It's because we're not. What we're doing is we're doing launches, we're doing restocks, we're pushing urgency, and we just base this as a promotional. It doesn't mean we're sending 20% discount or 30% discount every single month. What we're doing instead is we're focusing a lot of this portion, the 50%, on our non-buyers to see what brings them over the line. On people that have lapsed as customers, we're sending them tests to see what brings them over the line. And another portion of this, we want to make sure that we're pushing urgency in a very intelligent way, because keep in mind, promotional can mean, hey, you have points expiring, redeem them now, especially if you are very big on redemption, loop, what recharge, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you are focusing on the split. Then here's what's actually winning, by the way. We have split test so many things, and this is what's winning. Plain text will outbeat design every single time. If you're sending a plain text email from the founder, make it raw, scannable, super quick, this is going to kill for you, especially in a world where everyone is putting together just promotional emails and they all look good. You want to break the pattern. Send them a plain text email. You've seen all your competitors do this. There is a correct way to do it. I've done videos on this. Then next is send a name over subject line. This is one of the biggest levers that people are pulling now. So when you run a sale, it's changing the sender name to, for example, 50% off today only Nike. That is going to bring you so many more results than just changing a subject line. Same thing is sending from, let's just say Jake from Nike. That is going to be a huge one because it seems like someone personal is reaching out. So testing first name or founder at brand or whatever it is going to work way better. Then lastly, split testing offers. This is what's working in campaign sends. Stop sending everyone the same old discounts that discount your brand. Test what they actually react to. So with your one-time purchases, you need to send campaigns that try and figure out what gets them over the line. Maybe it is a quick additional product. Maybe it is the fact that they just hate the shipping costs associated with your brand. And so you can test all these things, but you only know when you run them as campaigns. So I highly recommend that. Then when it comes to sales and promos, this is how everyone does it. You probably do it as well. You run a teaser, then you do an announcement, then you do a reminder, and then you do a last call. That's typical. Maybe what you do is actually just an announcement, reminder, and last call, right? We don't. And here's the sequence that's actually going to add 40 to 60% sale revenue onto your brand almost immediately the next time you run a sale. So this is what we run. And again, this is the secret sauce. Like if you don't watch anything else in this video, watch this part, because this is going to be where you make all your revenue. When you run a discount or a sale, you want to make it a big deal. You don't want people to think that you discount your brand. You want it to be kind of the special deal. And so this is what the top brands are doing, like Breeze. And you can go back and look at all their sends and you'll see that I'm right. First of all, a week before the sale, you do a pre-sale send. And this is basically a founder-based email saying, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you and say, please don't buy this week. I would hate to see you buy this week because I'm going to be honest, and maybe my team's going to hate me, but I can't let you buy this week because next week we're running a sale. And so I don't want you to get the product at full price. I really want to kind of, unintentionally bribe you to get it at a discount. Otherwise, you're going to be pretty pissed that you didn't listen to me. So next week, pay attention. We're going to send a bunch of stuff. So it's almost this really intelligent teaser. Then you do the launch, and this is day one, right? Day one is the launch, and you're sending an email in the morning, super simple, promotional, image-based email. Then what everyone does not do is they send a reminder, right? Or what everyone does is they send a reminder. What you should be doing instead is you should, in the evening, send a plain text reminder from the founder. This time saying, hey, told you, I kept my promise. I told you not to buy last week. Hope you saw our email this week. I just wanted to make sure that you definitely did see it so you get the code. P.S. This is it if you missed out. I do want to make sure that you buy this week so that, we really don't do this often. I just want to make sure you didn't miss it. So imagine the psychology of someone. First of all, you were so upfront and honest about them. What brand is reaching out to someone and saying, don't buy, right? Almost no one. And so this psychology works so well that by email 3, you've already generated most of the revenue that you would have from 4 different emails. Then what you want to do is the next day, you want to resend to non-openers. Do a new subject line, keep the same body, or you want to change the subject line. You want to resend this to non-openers. Then day 3, reminder to non-buyers. So at this point, you've excluded any purchases so they're not getting inundated. Make sure that you use a different angle and different social proof. You do not want to send the same information every campaign. There's a reason they didn't buy. Then you want to send a last call on day 4. And then day 7, you want to do a 3-hour espresso shot extension to only non-buyers. You want to see whether a higher discount's going to work better or maybe a $20 off instead of a percentage off, whatever it is. But I promise you, this is going to lift 40 to 60% in sale revenue. Now let's move on to the flows. With the flows, and actually, let me just pause for a second. Let me tell you, that was absolute mastery in marketing. And I promise you, not to blow my own horn, that is going to change so much for you. And I guarantee you that agencies do not do that. Brands are not doing that properly. Only the few top players. And no one's going to tell you that because they try to keep it behind a paid wall. And so, yeah, I just hope you realize how much I'm actually giving you in this video. So let's move on to flows. You basically have all 5 non-negotiable flows, but they're built wrong, right? So you have these flows. It's not like you're a startup brand. You have the welcome cart, checkout, browse, and site, but you need it rebuilt. And if you're working with an agency, if they're doing things correctly and they're not bullshitting you, every single one needs a structural rebuild, and these need to be updated every 3 to 5 months. So let me show you how these are actually built correctly, because I promise you've done it wrong. So the welcome email should not be 3 or 4 emails. It should be actually around 7 emails. You need to include a little bit of a split of content, education, offer split, founder information, and founder email. Then your cart abandonment should not be 2 emails. It should be 3 to 4 minimum. Your checkout also should be 3 to 4 minimum. And by the way, your checkout and your cart should not look the same. There's different pain points for each, and I don't know why I see this in every backend audit, but they basically are identical. And it doesn't make any sense. The intention level is so different for cart versus checkout. So just watch out for that. And you never want to duplicate the code across all of these flows. So the cart abandonment and checkout abandonment right now for you, I'm almost 99% sure, has a similar code to welcome. It's either 5% less or more, and it is still a percentage offer. Then your browse abandonment, this is basically just like a generic recap of what they looked at. That should not be the case. It should be product-specific recommendation logic plus category education, because you should be creating dynamic product feeds in the backend. Then your site abandonment. This is probably missing entirely. I don't know why so many brands do not have a site abandonment. You have tons of traffic coming to the website that never want the welcome flow. They should be being recaptured, right? And so you need a 2-email engagement sequence for repeat browsers who haven't bought. You need to make sure that you're doing that. So This is the real source. This is exactly how your cart abandonment and checkout abandonment should look at the very least, including our best performing subject lines. So I'm just saying, you should pause this, make sure it looks like this. And what you need to do is make sure that they can re-enter these flows in about 10-day period. And take a look at what we do. We make sure that we send a different cart and checkout email, number one, and we never see this, ever. When we audit a backend, I think 2% of brands that we audit have this. You should split the flow based on whether someone has been in the flow before and have purchased, right? And so if someone's been in the flow before, they should get completely different messaging. Why are you giving 15% off one-time code to the person who keeps re-entering the flow? That is going to keep them discount orientated. And worse is if there is only a one-time purchase code, so they're getting a code they can't use anymore. So it's just redundant. It doesn't make any sense. And every brand I see has this in place incorrectly. What you should do is you should have 6 emails total in this flow minimum, because you're splitting them into arms. You're sending a different sequence of messaging to people that have never purchased and have re-entered this, or people that have never re-entered this. And you're sending a different one to people that have re-entered into this flow or have been in this flow before. They should not see duplicate emails ever. That is poor marketing and it doesn't make sense. And what they need is something completely different. And so you don't want to offer a code to someone that continuously re-enters into this over and over and over again. And so our best subject line, by the way, is your order is ready to ship. They didn't forget something. They actually just did not see something they liked. It's a pain point. You need to take care of it. And so we want to make sure that we do this. Then we'll maybe run an espresso shot sale on email 3, and we'll introduce the offer on email 2. So that's basically it. Then we will basically send completely different messaging. So for example, back for another, your order is almost ready. Different messaging, because it's the second time they're seeing this. Then we want to say, hey, are you still running low? You obviously took a look at this because your previous order is probably running out. Just want to make sure. And hey, by the way, your cart does expire in 3 hours. We don't bring an offer in this. So make sure you're strategically doing this very differently than just sending a blanket email to everyone. Every single person needs different messaging. Then with the post-purchase flow, super simple. We want to send this to anyone that's purchased a product. But like I mentioned, most brands have this entirely wrong. And this probably looks completely different to what you have in place. Most people send a review request, a thank you, and maybe some kind of random upsell. We don't do that. What we do is we understand that this is the most important thing that you can do to increase AOV as well as increase frequency of purchase. The number one thing that you can do in email marketing is this post-purchase flow, and yet no one does it correctly. And the way that we do it is we are basing it on how many times someone has purchased. So the first time someone purchases, we want to guarantee with 90% certainty that they will return and buy. The best way to do that is, number one, make sure they're using the product correctly. Number two, make sure they get exceptional customer service. And we think about the way that people visit restaurants. What brings you back to a restaurant? Let's say the food was incredible, but the service was really shitty. You're probably not going to recommend it to anyone. You're definitely not coming back. It just wasn't worth the pain. And yeah, it was fine, but you can probably just find somewhere else. And so your taste for the food is already diminished just because of the way that you were treated and served. And so we treat that the same way as the post-purchase flow. We want to make sure that they have the most exceptional experience, that it doesn't matter what their experience is with the product. It's almost a no-brainer to commit to the product. And then what we do is we walk them through that. So email number one is a plain text email from the founder, genuinely thanking them and letting them know to pay attention to the emails, because we're going to send repeat emails on how to use their product correctly. Then depending on your 3PL and your integration with Shopify, we then can send a trigger after their order is delivered. Otherwise, you can estimate when it will be delivered, like 5 business days. And what we do is the day after they get their product delivered, we're saying, hey, just wanted to check in. You got your product based on yesterday. And so we just want to make sure you're using your product correctly. Here's how to use it. Here's a dosage guide. Here's a use case. So if you're a fashion brand, the way you'll do it is, hey, here's the way to style it. Here's how other people have worn it, blah, blah, blah. Then email number 3 is where you upsell and cross-sell. So you're not trying to be too aggressive, but this is around the time that they should be buying something else. And of course, this varies. Then what we do is, based on that, we want to make sure that around this time, if it is a subscription brand, we're sending them an upsell to subscribe and save, because at this point, they probably are going to want to repurchase. And they're at the point that they've got exceptional customer service, so they're more likely to do that. And so if we're not a subscription brand and they have now placed an order twice, we're going to wait an hour and we're going to send them another email. That's where we say subscribe and save, or we skip over And we basically send them a review request from the founder, because at this point, they've already placed order twice, which means we know they're happy with us. They're more likely to leave a positive review. Super important. Then maybe we'll send another refill reminder when it's the right time. And then once they place an order 3 or more times, this is where we give them store credits and announce that they've been kind of entered into the VIP group. And so we make them feel super special. So that's the way we build a post-purchase. You can pause this, take down any notes that you want, but this is the correct way to do a post-purchase flow. And that alone, by the way, most agencies don't even know how to do, even when they charge you like $5,000 a month, which is ridiculous, by the way. So the flows that you don't have, there's 3 flows that are hiding basically $30K per month. And those 3 flows is, number 1, the correct abandonments, like I showed you. First time versus repeat customers needs to be prioritized. And this is the biggest like immediate unlock for revenue. Post-purchase flow in a tiered way. This is really costing you a lot of money. And subscription flows. If you are a subscription brand, then consumable products and subscription flows is going to be the biggest thing. And by the way, if you are a subscription brand, you need 4 flows. And these 4 is a welcome flow for anyone that is subscribed, an upsell flow to make sure, so kind of like the post-purchase flow that I just showed you, to push people to subscribe and save, and then 2 of these invisible ones that I never see in a backend, which is that you should be sending a flow to anyone that has canceled their subscription or paused it, and another separate flow to anyone that's had failed payments. Make sure you're doing that. Then, if we take a look at segments, this is where I see the biggest error in backends, and it's such a small thing, is basically you should be using this kind of formula. You should be using life cycle plus predictive value plus AI. And what I mean by that is you need a segment by life cycle. What happens a lot is when I review backends, brands think they're doing a great job because they are diluting their list. That is not what you should do. What you should be doing is you shouldn't be using engagement windows or categories of purchase. What you should be doing is based on buyer stage. Non-buyers, one-time buyers, repeat buyers, lapsed buyers, and VIP. That's it. Then you should absolutely be changing the way you send to those different segments, of course. Next up, you should be focusing on layering predictive value. So for example, you should separate by what amount people are spending. If you have someone that has purchased, and spent between $50 to $120 with you versus you're sending the same thing to someone that spent $500 with you, you're making a big mistake, because those $500 purchases are 80% of your revenue right now. You should be focusing on increasing the AOV of the lower CLV brands or customers. And then AI for scale. So we're at a point where AI is inevitable. You should be using AI to absolutely generate variation in split test, send time, optimization, copy testing at scale. Like, you should be using so much of it. And so we use Claude plus Klaviyo to go ahead and do all of that. And you can use it to analyze your backend in a way that no agency really can, because it's seeing so many more details at scale. So this is what it looks like in practice. And I'm going to be so transparent about the brands as well, so you can do a back check. Ultra Botanical, we started working with literally 2 months ago. And in the first 30 days, we took them from 231K to 287K a month. And then Real Botanicals, we took from 400K a month to 1.7 million a month. And then Verbiani, 740K per month to $1.5 million a month. And you can see the time frame. So Real Botanicals, it took us 6 months to do that. Verbiani, 60 days. And here's the proof, right? Here's the actual results of their backends. So you can see this backend where we went from 740K to 1.5 million. Then this one where this is Real Botanicals backend where we scaled them to over 1.8 million every single month. And then of course we have this one where you can see that we increased them 12%. This is Ultra Botanical, and we added an extra $50,000 in additional revenue. And you'll notice that I talk in additional revenue, like total revenue, rather than attributed revenue, because it is such a bigger picture. Most people claim that they have additional attributed revenue, but actually it's just a fluffy number and they didn't add anything additional. So that's what we want to focus on. Now, every brand at this tier follows the same arc, right? Before, they had 25% attribution, they had 30% flow contribution, they had kind of this baseline customer LTV, and then they had stagnant list growth. Whereas afterwards, 42%, 45%, 2 times the baseline, and 8 to 15% per month. So there's 2 paths here, right? You can run this playbook yourself, or you can apply to work with MailC. So if you want to run this yourself, that's fair. Take what you've seen and rebuild our program. The framework is yours. We expect that 2 out of the 4 of every 100 brands that watch this will do this, and it works. So good for you. You have a team that can implement it. That's great. But if you apply to work with us, we will run it for you, and we will run it properly with fast growth. So book a demo call with us below. We only take on 2 brands per month, and I mean this. This is not like an urgency or sales hack. Like, we really do only take on 2 because we're a lean team. We make sure we bring on who we actually want to work with as well. So you'll see on the call, it's not necessarily a sales call. We are genuinely trying to figure out if we can work with you because we only want to work with the best. And we'll prepare an audit for you too as a shameless bribe. So you have full incentive to go ahead and do that. So want us to run this for you, then this is who we work with. You have to be doing at least $50,000 to $100,000 per month and be ready to take on at least $400,000 extra in additional revenue and additional orders. What you get is a full audit, full rebuild, ongoing optimization, and of course a dedicated team instead of bringing someone in-house. We're going to handle everything for you. And then the process for this is basically a short application. You'll and this is just super quick. Like, you'll fill out a Calendly just to make sure that you are the right brand with the right revenue. Then we will get on a call, give you a diagnostic, and then we'll send over a proposal. So it's kind of an anti-sales call. We're not going to try to sell you. What we're trying to do is understand if we can work with you. So with that being said, thank you for giving this a watch. We'll see you on the call. And otherwise, I hope this was super valuable and you can send it to your team.